few years ago, on October 23rd, I had the rare opportunity to soar to the edge of space in a U-2 reconnaissance aircraft. I had intensified my training for 2 months, lost a required 29 pounds, checked onto the base for systems orientation, and I was fitted into my 130-pound spacesuit, climbed aboard the aircraft with my commander, and we took off and immediately rapidly climbed to 17 miles above the Earth's surface, where for 5 hours I sat in the sounds of silence, looking at the breathtaking curvature of the Earth, gazing into the endless blackness of the universe, pondering eternity and my place in it. And with an unobstructed view of our planet, I teared up as an eyewitness to the words of Einstein, that the mind once stretched can never return to its original dimensions. Realizing why Einstein also wrote that although the concept of a master organizer and a supreme being is complex, we must embrace the mindset of a young child who walks into a large library and says, surely someone must have written all of these books. And within minutes, I too agreed that surely we are more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season. And because I could see the thin, delicate ozone where the blue turned to black, I also realized that it's not my air, my water, my world. It's our air, our water, and our collective stewardship to take better care of our Mother Earth and of each other. Needless to say, this high flight changed my life forever. How? Why? It forever changed my perspective, which controls everything that we believe and do. Let me give you some quick examples. Is your glass half empty or half full? Or is it refillable? It's perspective. If all of us are looking at the same rainstorm and someone complains, what a horrible day, and someone else exclaims, what a wonderful day, the weather did not change. It's perspective. Are you tall or short? Fast or slow? Successful or unsuccessful? Says who? Compared to what? It's perspective. And let's say this side of my hand is painted white and this side is painted blue. What color is my hand? White. Blue. Who is right? You all are, depending on your perspective. So in order for us to communicate at the deepest, most authentic levels of empathy and total understanding, we must be willing to come around on the other side of the hand to see the other person's perspective and acknowledge that, yes, it is white or blue, which turns every argument about who is right into agreeing on what is right so we can move forward together. Awestruck in the atmosphere and environment of space, I was reminded that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Which is why and when I created my 3-step process I call the art of significance, where I turn the word art, A-R-T, into an acronym that guides us through awareness, refinement, and transformation. It's the process and formula that I use with organizations to up-level their culture, train their leaders, and actually build them into a high-performance team. Awareness of our current perspective, refinement of our passionate purpose, and transformation through quantum improvement. Awareness of our current perspective is clarity of self, staying present in the process, which means that before we can ever make a move, we must first identify and acknowledge exactly where we are right now. It's like my Aunt Lucy, who when she was 63 years old, started walking 5 miles every day. Now she's 91 and we don't know where she is. We laugh, but the number one limiting belief that holds us back from accomplishing our goals is focusing in on a future outcome instead of on the present process starting right where we are right now. So the key question that we must answer at the beginning of every day is, where are you physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? Noting that they're all connected and interdependent, continuously interfacing with one another, and that the perspective we have on each of them will determine the level of our performance for the day. How do I know? Imagine, if you will, that instead of walking into this ballroom today, you walk onto an American football field with huge dreams as a projected #1 draft pick by the Oakland Raiders into the National Football League. But within 30 minutes, your dreams are shattered, your heart's broken by a paralyzing injury that cuts short your football career. That's what happened to me. One day in a tackling drill, coach blew the whistle go, and another player and I ran full speed into each other in a violent head-on collision, smashing my shoulder into the cutting edge of my fiberglass pads, and we slammed to the ground. When Lyle got off of me, I had compressed my neck. I'd severed the axillary nerve in my right deltoid muscle and suffered a grade 2 concussion. My eye drooped, my speech slurred, which momentarily returned, but my right side stayed totally numb, and my arm dangled helplessly at my side, leaving me paralyzed for 14 months, both physically and emotionally. I went to 16 doctors, 15 of whom told me I would not recover. I would never get any better. Have any of you ever heard that? What happens if you believe it? You never get any better. And my life spiraled downward until I hit what I thought was rock bottom. Yes, I fought my way back to a 95% recovery. But sitting in the sounds of silence at 17 miles above the earth took me back to the sounds of silence in the hospital, where I felt all alone in a crowded room and lonely in a loved one's arms. And I wondered if I have lived every lesson I learned. For example, why did I go to so many different doctors? I now realized I kept going from doctor to doctor until I found one who believed I would get better, who explained that knowledge is power, but it has no heart. We don't learn to know, we learn to do. Knowledge doesn't change behavior. Behavior changes behavior, which is created by our belief that it is not enough to say, I will do my best. We must succeed in doing that which is necessary. And because this was such a critical part of my recovery, may I pause for a minute to acknowledge that there may be somebody here who is hurting as badly as I was, who's lost your job, who's gone through a devastating divorce, battling PTS from a traumatic experience, where you've lost your identity like I did, and you actually think you've hit rock bottom. With all due respect, may I remind all of us that no matter how bad it gets, nobody ever hits rock bottom. We hit rock foundation. We hit rock belief. We hit the baseline core values and governing principles on which we were raised. And even if your current belief is strong and deep enough, if you're still struggling to get better, maybe it's because you're asking the wrong questions like I did, which is why the second element in my art of significance process is refinement of our passionate purpose. You see, I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. And once we answer why, figuring out the how to becomes clear and simple. When we only focus on the what and the how, we only engage the brain. But when we add to that a passionate why and a compelling want, we connect the head with the heart, which causes our blood to pump more rapidly, our brains to fire, and our muscles to magnify. Yes, reason leads to conclusions, but it is emotion that leads to action. No pain, no gain really means no heart, no chance. That nothing happens to us, everything happens for us, which makes my football injury one of the very best things that's ever happened for me. Not my paralysis, but who I became because of it. I thought I was a football player when in reality, that's just what I did, not who I am as a man. And when we identify ourselves in terms of what we do instead of who we are, we become human doings instead of human beings. Unacceptable if we want to achieve the level beyond success, which we call significance. You see, successful people get what they want. Significant individuals want what we get so we don't die with our music still in us. Let me repeat this. Successful people get what they think they want, focused on what matters at the moment. But significant individuals want what we get by focusing on what matters most, which is what lasts the longest, so we don't die with regrets with our intentions and music still in us. Suddenly, my U2 commander started pushing us up to a higher altitude, which in this mindset is why the third element in my art of significance process is transformation through quantum improvement. Knowing that if we just fix something, it becomes what it was. But when we improve something, it becomes what it has the potential to be. Let me explain by sharing a recent experience I had working with the professional football team. Challenged with the task to take 53 elite athletes who collectively represent over $208 million in annual salary to a higher level. What would you have said to them? The good news is the same thing that motivates them motivates you and me. Expectations. So in a team meeting, I ask a captain and an assistant coach to come to the front of the room and hold the ends of a broomstick so it's suspended 12 inches off the floor. And ahead of time, I get the name of the most gifted and talented player on the team who can jump 38 inches high. And at no surprise, he's sitting in the back of the room, so I ask him to help me out. And in a slow, cocky walk, he struts to the front of the room where I engage him. Hey, do you think you can jump over this 12-inch high broomstick? He glares at me and refuses to move, so I change the question. Will you jump over this 12-inch high broomstick? Grinning sarcastically, he skips over the bar and stares me down again. And here's where the teaching begins. Why did you only jump 12 inches high when you and your coaches and teammates know you can jump 38 inches high? And his answer was epic, because that's all you asked me to do. How high is your bar? People see you jumping over it every day, but only you know how high it should be. Only you know if you're giving it everything you've got when less would be sufficient. Not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of ourselves, knowing that we don't compete against others, we compete against what we're capable of. Because under pressure, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training. That's why we train and practice so hard to improve every day, one quantum inch at a time. And then we landed. And at the end of this 5-hour intrepid excursion, I realized that although this space adventure created an unusual environment wherein I could conduct a self-audit that changed my perspective forever, you don't have to put on a spacesuit to redefine what's possible. You simply need to create your own quiet space here on earth and tune into your own still small voice of intuition that will up-level your perspective so you can live that life you dream about as a master of the art of significance. And how do I know? In the sounds of silence at 17 miles up, it was clear. Sure is a lot of wasted space if we're the only ones here. From space, you see heaven and earth are connected. Environment matters and should be protected. Religion's for those scared of hell, and beware. Spirituality's for those of us who have already been there. If your glass is half filled or half spilled, it's perspective, but it's always refillable when we're introspective. Awareness refinement brings new transformation. Though paralyzed, we'll rise with a why explanation. Success is to get what we want, unfulfilling. Significant want what we get through our giving. Raising our bar with our mind open wide. refusing to die with our music inside. And because of this shared perspective, my friends, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. If you really believe that if you could somehow improve your ability to tell your story. Now remember, the purpose of a leader is to grow more leaders who believe what you believe, not generate more followers. Now remember, Dr. Liz, she put it in her own words, but I quote my buddy Simon Sinek. We've been on the program together many times. He and I share the same publisher in Penguin Random House of my book, The Art of Significance. He's famous for saying the goal is not to do business with everybody who wants what you have. The goal is to do business only with those who believe what you believe, so they choose you, not just somebody who does what you do. I'm a songwriter. I love the hook idea. I love the tagline that Liz is calling it. I love the idea of realizing that it's the hook of the song that sells the song. My buddy Tim Nichols wrote, "Live Like You're Dying" for Tim McGraw. The dance, Garth Brooks, I could have missed the pain, but then I had to miss the dance. It's the hook. So I love hooks. I love putting things in consolidated words that we can hang our hat on and really make a difference in our lives. So may I ask you a question in a consolidated hook line? If you are an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you are who you are, attracted into this team referral network, which is one of the finest of its kind in the entire world, I know for a fact that you're an extraordinary human being, but when you speak, people will expect you to present your story at the same level of excellence that created it. And so I want to just take my time right now to take you on this journey. I've taught public speaking at the university level for 11 years. I've consolidated everything I've learned in a 42-year Hall of Fame career into a syllabus that I used in my classes at the University of Utah, at Duke University, at Alabama, at Vanderbilt, Harvard. The list goes on and on. And I remind everybody that it's not about you, which we've heard all day long. Seek to bless, not impress. If you're nervous before you speak, it means you think it's about you. If you're excited before you speak, you know it's about them. Everything that we need to understand about communication, one-on-one, one-on-12 in a board meeting, if you're trying to raise capital campaign for your entrepreneurial idea, no such thing as a financial crisis, only an idea crisis. Ideas create income, but if you can't present your idea in a passionate, creative, imaginative way, people aren't going to invest in you or your amazing idea. So with your permission, I brought 3 books actually, Kelly. First book is my flagship book. It's called The Art of Significance, Achieving the Level Beyond Success. And when I finished my book tour, I realized the number one most frequently asked question was, Clark, what's the difference between success and significance? And I think the answer appeals to all of us in this room, or you wouldn't be here. May I illustrate? I'm in a conversation with one of my football teammates. He's drafted into the NFL in the 2nd round by the Philadelphia Eagles. After 2 years with the Eagles, he's traded to my Oakland Raiders. After 4 years in the league, playing at the highest Pro Bowl level, one day he walks out of practice, quits, never to play again. Why? He loved being a football player, but he hated playing football. Can any of you relate? He got what he thought he wanted by focusing in on what matters at the moment. He loved the celebrity perks and the fame and fortune that allowed him to live this life we call successful, which is competing against others. Nice house, nice car, nice holidays, nice income, nice title. But because his inner voice and his true purpose in life was misaligned with who he was and what he had to do to get what he was trying to get, he would never live a life of significance, and he would die with his intentions, with regrets, and with his music still in him. Can any of you relate? Successful people get what they think they want, focused on what matters at the moment. And those of us striving to live lives of significance actually want what we get by focusing on what matters most, which is what lasts the longest. And I would suspect that that's the attraction of Team Referral Network. To come together in your chapter meetings, to come together in your alliances, in your franchise movements. I think San Diego's here, Ventura County's here, but she has, I know she has franchises in Georgia and Texas and some other places. And I would suspect that the draw, remember, we don't attract who we want, we attract who we are. I would suspect that the attraction for each of us here is based on what Dr. Jim Rohn said, that everybody has bastardized by not giving him credit, who came up with the idea that it's true that we become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most. Which means if you hang around with 5 broke people, you're going to become the 6th. If you hang around with 5 negative, whining, blaming, complaining people, you're going to become the 6th. When you put a hard-to-catch horse in the same field with an easy-to-catch horse, most of the time you end up with 2 hard-to-catch horses. And in the human experience, when you put a healthy child in the same room with a sick child, most of the time you end up with 2 sick children. Moral of the story: to be disciplined, healthy, and significant, we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings. Isn't that why you're here? I know that's why I said yes, and that's why I'm here. I've already met some significant human beings whom I really want to keep in touch with. Carl, dude, Brett, you inspire me. We connect at several levels, even though I'm not as good looking as you. So, if I could possibly add value, I think where I want to take my time today is to just help you understand the significance of words, the significance of communication, the significance of finding your own signature story, but add to that a sense of urgency so that when you leave here, you will take action and never be the same. By show of hands, how many of you believe that we can actually leave here differently than we were when we arrived? How many of you believe that one moment in time changes us forever? I do. Proof. I was on the program with Henry Winkler, a famous comedic actor who was most famous for playing a role in a television sitcom called Happy Days. And he played the coolest guy who ever lived, the character of the Fonzie. Hey, whoa. Saddest thing in this illustration is some of you in this room are so young, you don't even know who I'm talking about. That's just wrong. You need to Google this guy. So freaking cool. All leather, walk into a room, jukebox isn't playing any music, and he hits it and it starts playing. No lights on in the room. He goes, and the lights click on. Fonzie, he and I, Henry Winkler and I, we finish our speeches. He decides he wants to take some time off, treat himself to a matinee movie. So we slide in through the side exit door of the theater, and as we shuffle ourselves down the aisle, we find ourselves vacant seats. As we turn to sit down in the chair to look up at the movie screen, the little girl sitting right behind us smiles this giant smile. She points her finger and she slowly says, Fonzie. Henry Winkler immediately snaps into the Fonzie character from Happy Days. Hey, whoa. And the lady sitting next to the little girl passes out. Henry Winkler milks the moment. Whoa, I thought this only happened on TV drama. Hey, how cool is this? Whoa. Theater manager comes out, takes care of the woman's needs. She's lying in the aisle, cold pack on her forehead. She's asked one question. Why did you pass out? She said, my little girl is autistic. And that is the very first word she has ever spoken in her entire life. You gotta believe. But what gets us to believe is the emotion that you just experienced through the power of a story. It's so critically important that we accept the challenge that if you're serious about taking yourself to the next level, starting today, you must begin with identifying what you believe, who you are, what is your journey, what experiences have you had in your life that have life lessons worth sharing with someone else, so that when you crave to start your own podcast, Carl, or crave to be a guest on some big name podcasts, People know that you're the compelling individual with the stories that are consolidated, that are funny, evocative, with a quote, and emotional so people remember them. That you don't go down rabbit holes, that you've consolidated your beliefs, your feelings into emotional, gripping, compelling stories that people remember. Guaranteed. If I want you to remember the support that Kelly Holmes and her entire organization gives you, and I say, they're there for you all the time, you're going to go, yeah, and then you drive home or you fly home. But what happens if I illustrate the significance of unconditional support with a 30-second vignette? A mother encourages her daughter to come home as soon as school is over. The time comes, the time goes. 30 minutes later, daughter walks in through the front door of her home and her mother scolds her. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. She says, oh, mommy. I walked my friend Sally home. She dropped her doll on the sidewalk. It broke all to pieces. It was awful. Her mother said, so you're late because you stayed to help your friend pick up the pieces of the doll and put it back together again? She said, oh no, mommy, I didn't know how to fix the doll. I just stayed to help her cry. You see the power of storytelling. By a show of hands, maybe I'll just make the statement. I don't want to flatter myself and sound so self-important. But every single time I speak somewhere in the world, I always have a handful of people or more come up to me and say, hey, could you coach me? Do you have a speaking program? Obviously I do, or I wouldn't have brought it up, Liz. But by a show of hands, do you think it would help you become the best version of yourself? Do you think it would help you figure out your niche and stand out in the marketplace if you just became a better communicator, i.e., an awesome storyteller that creates your niche market? We can't tell other people's stories or we have no unique factor. We know that. Just the other day, I'm on a program and this guy, big, huge speaker's fee, pretty big name. He comes out on stage and he tells a couple of stories. I've been in this business for so long. He told a couple of stories and kind of claimed they were his. And I'm back there going, really? And the saddest thing is the speaker who followed him did not hear this guy speak. And he was also a pretty big name speaker with a huge speaker's fee. And he told those same two stories, which destroyed the previous speaker's credibility and his own. But if you tell your own stories, that will never, ever happen. It'll make you that person that you need to be. And I promise you, you have some significant stories that will change people's lives. Guaranteed, if you're ordinary before you're extraordinary, and all the other things that we've talked about in our general and breakout sessions today. So as a student of storytelling, the second book I brought is called Story Selling, forward by Mark Victor Hansen from our Chicken Soup days. And I've studied the 6 brain chemicals that will actually influence someone's decision-making, especially if you need to sell yourself. It's the secret to dating. I know you put Brett on the spot. I thought his answer was just killer. The vulnerability of Carl, how cool was that story? My goodness gracious. But to add to those stories in a very, very powerful and unique way makes you stand out because no one else can tell those stories. As a songwriter, Michael, we need to talk, man. You're an impressive dude. I love your history and whatever happened. We got to talk. And he's nodding his head because he knows for a fact exactly what I'm going to say. As far as creating your own unique factor and honing in on the stories that you know are true because they changed you and they'll change someone else. Let's just put it into perspective of a songwriter or a recording artist who recorded so much music back in the day. The dream of every songwriter, recording artist is to have a platinum selling record, platinum selling song, which means we sell 1 million copies. And what keeps us songwriters and recording artists true to our soul without selling out is the reality that there are 300 million people in America, which means you can literally piss off 299 million and still go platinum. You don't have to be everything to everybody. Be true to you. And you are enough. You are supposed to be here. I guarantee it. So let's just study the brain chemicals, and I'll illustrate them to the best of my ability. With the idea in mind, raise of hands, how many of you would believe that if you could leave today with a little piece of me, a book that you can take to the pool, that you can take to the beach, that you can actually refer to and put it in your pocketbook, your handbag, your briefcase, your desk drawer, to remind you about the significance of communicating from a brain chemical perspective? And if so, everybody else has a giveaway. I'll give the first person that meets me at the table all 3 books. And then I obviously have the offer. If you want to buy 1 book, it's $20. And then because I'm into modern math, I'll give you 3 for $50 because I'm such a good guy and I'm really a big deal. So let's talk about the 6 brain chemicals and illustrate them, proving true that you also have stories like this. And let's get underway. Brain chemical number 1, endorphins. When you want to influence someone to increase their resilience and start to think outside the line, you use humor or a story about resilience. And I guarantee that triggers in that person with whom you're communicating a deeper feeling, so they actually say, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. I like me best, bro, when I'm with you. I want to see you again. That's unique factor 101. Let me illustrate. Hey, thanks for coming, man. I'd like to start over. Kelly, will you come up and introduce me, please, man? You missed some good stuff, but you're buffed. I'd come in late too, man. That was awesome. Endorphins, triggered by humor. So let's celebrate us in this room. Outside of these walls of this Pomona Conference Center, that's not what it's called though, is it? Like I said. We have a minimum requirement, mediocrity. And in here, we're celebrating taking ourselves from where we are to where we want to be. It's awesome, is it not? But every time I get on an airplane, I'm reminded about this minimum requirement, mediocrity in which we live. I just flew from South Africa to Atlanta. From Atlanta to Salt Lake City, Utah, where I live half the year in the mountains. And from Salt Lake City, Utah to Ontario, California. Which means I was force-fed the same pre-flight safety demonstration on every one of those flights going to and coming back. Any of you listen to the pre-flight safety demonstration on board the plane? I'm so sorry, you need therapy. Anybody who has to be taught how to put a seatbelt on in public should not be allowed in public unsupervised. In the event of a decrease in cabin pressure, an oxygen mask will appear. Reach up, tug on the gold cup, place it over your nose and mouth, securing it tightly with an elastic strap. Breathe normally. You're going down. And they say, breathe normally. And these flight attendants, they give us brain damage. Bring your seat up to the most upright and uncomfortable position. Alive, dead. Alive, dead. I survived a plane crash, 1988, Stanton, Virginia, Shenandoah Valley Airport. Trust me, when you're going down and you finally hit the ground, 1.5 inches does not make a difference. And these flight attendants lie. They stand up, we're here for your safety. No, they're not. When you're going down, they're strapped in and screaming just like we are. Just once, I want them to give me the microphone. Let me tell people aboard the plane what really happens in an emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, in the event of a decrease in cabin pressure, a little gold cup's going to conk you in the head. When you stop screaming, brace yourself for a 200 feet per second vertical dive. And if you're traveling with more than one child, pick your favorite. Because you ain't got enough time to make another choice. What happens when we get on a plane and the flight attendant isn't just in the little box and just trying to do his or her job, but they want to make flying fun? Do we not remember that? Isn't that the secret to referrals? Yeah. I'm on Delta Airlines. We're coming into Dallas, Texas. Huge turbulence. We're bouncing all over the sky. We finally land. We bounce, we land. We bounce, we land. Taxi to the gate. Flight attendant comes over the PA system. Hi, welcome to Dallas, Texas. If you enjoyed your flight, tell your friends you flew Delta Airlines. If you did not enjoy your flight, tell your friends you flew Southwest. And everybody on the plane goes, huh? And obviously she had a great relationship with leadership, because she then says, and please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened while Captain Kangaroo bounces us the rest of the way to the gate. That's funny. And is it contagious? Yeah, an elderly woman walking in the aisle right behind me with her cane. She comes to the doorway. You the pilot? Yes, ma'am. Did we really land or did we get shot down? What you're feeling is endorphins. And endorphins are addictive because they don't remain in our body. It's why people love to run long distances and we love to laugh. You want somebody to crave you, to come back into their presence, to engage with you in a personal relationship or in a business transaction. Trigger endorphins because it's addictive. I need that feeling again, and you're the one that gave it to me.